In the book of Luke, chapter 15, it begins by saying that outcasts and sinners, publicans, tax collectors drew near to him, and he gave them a parable. Parable is just a story with a meaning hidden in the story. All I'm going to do this morning is tell you a story. Once upon a time, a crown prince is traveling throughout his father's kingdom. You see, a dark lord has taken rule over the kingdom and usurped authority. And the kingdom that used to be a kingdom of peace, tranquility, prosperity, and blessing has become a kingdom where there is oppression and hatred, enslavement, poverty. And the prince has set forth to view what has happened in the kingdom that used to be filled with such grace. As a result of his travels, he enters a poverty-stricken village, and when he comes into that village, he sees a ragged peasant girl. They meet at the town well. She's ragged and unkept and has little in the ways of social skills, but as the prince looks into her eyes, he somehow sees her heart, and he falls hopelessly and madly in love with her. He goes away, and he comes back disguised as a pauper, a common laborer, a worker. You see, he wants to win her heart not by his wealth, not by his kingdom, not by his power or his prestige, but he wants her to love him for his person, for his character, for who he is. And as he begins to work in the village, he looks at her. He sees a quality in her that others have just overlooked. And his goal is to win her heart. He begins to spend time with her. His gracious words, his gentleness, his compassionate heart captivates her. She slowly begins to fall in love with him too. And something about this prince's love changes this girl. Before, she's insecure, has no self-worth. But now cleanliness and kindness, compassion and virtue begins to be a part of who she is. Realizing that this young man loves her and not really knowing who he is yet gives her a value and a self-worth. She carries herself differently now. Not with arrogance, but with self-confidence, because she knows that now she is loved. Will she share his love and concern for others? While he tells her that she's first in his life, most of their time spent together is helping other people, focusing on the needs of others. Well, there's a house in the next village, a home, if you will, that's in shambles. It's falling apart. Will she accompany him there and help him to put things back in order, and always looking out for the needs of others? Everything she wants him to do with her seems to somehow involve helping somebody that's hurting, somebody that's broken, somebody that has a need. On the way, they come across a wounded man. He's been beaten. He's been abused. He watches her closely. Will she be compassionate? Will she care for him? You know, he can't pass a group of children without stopping to play with them. He laughs with them. They dance together. He's always pulling children up to himself and telling them stories. And in this culture, it's really strange because this young man, she don't know yet he's a prince. This young man values children as much as he does adults. He doesn't see them as people to be ignored or pushed away or devalued. Matter of fact, he values little ragged kids more than he values self-righteous religious folks. He goes to them and he's drawn to them and their humility. Matter of fact, he starts talking about a kingdom, and he says, if you're going to have part in this kingdom, you can't be all arrogant and self-righteous. You got to be like children. She's amazed at his compassion. He laughs with kids, he plays with them, and he tells them that they're valuable to him. Will she share in this passion? You know, he finds homeless children, and he asks her, will you take them back to your humble home and you take care of them? And then he has this strange habit of visiting those in prison. He even finds ways to pay debts for prisoners and set them free. She's never ever met anyone quite like him. He is so different. Sometimes she gets so frustrated with him. Why, he requires her to be merciful when she don't want to be merciful. He requires her to love when it's not easy to love. He tells her that there's a price on forgiveness, but you need to forgive anyway. And she just sometimes cannot understand his ways. They are so different, but yet there's something about him. She can't walk away because she had no self-worth before she met him. Without him, she has no value. She's not seen as quite like anyone else. Well, one night, he looks into her eyes, into her very soul, and he tells her, I'm leaving for a while, but I'm going to return for you when my place is ready. He begins to reveal his true identity to her. He says, I'm the only begotten Son of the King. This is all my kingdom, but I'm willing to lay down my life for you. I'd give up all this kingdom for you. That's how much I love you. And then he tells her, as she's concerned about him leaving, let not your heart be troubled. You believe in the King, believe also in me. In my Father's realm are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you, I'm going to prepare a place for you. And if I go, I'm coming back to receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also. He says, will you continue the work that we've started while I'm gone? Will you still care for the needy? Will you still reach out to the hurting? Will you visit those in prison? Will you care about the sick and those who are bound by... And he begins to tell her, those who are subjects of the dark Lord, don't hate them. They need to be set free. You see, they don't realize that he's not the real king. He's a usurper. And his kingdom has an end because I'm going to restore my Father's kingdom to this place. She doesn't laugh or mock. She believes him completely. Nobody else believes he's the prince, but she does. And she, you know, he's never lied to her about anything else. Why would he lie about this? And she wholeheartedly believes him. He tells her, while I'm gone, everyone you care for, everyone you touch, everyone you help, I will finance your helping them by the riches of my Father's kingdom. I'll do it in ways that people won't understand and it won't make sense, but I'll make sure, as long as you're caring for others, that your every need is met. And he leaves. Others begin to mock. Now comes the real test of her belief in him. Why, they say he was just a carpenter. He's a good-hearted guy, but he's not royalty. He's not the coming king. He was just a good fellow. But she says, I know who he really is. Why, you poor, deluded woman. Why in the world would you think real royalty would value you or have anything to do with a person like you? But she knows that she's of value because she is loved by the crown prince. And it doesn't matter what anyone says to her. She holds on to her belief in his promises. He says, I'm coming back, and time goes by, weeks turn into months, turn into years, and he still hasn't returned. And the longer that she's gone, the longer that he's gone, the more the people around her begin to mock and ridicule her. Why? You're a fool. You're no princess. He'll never return. He was just a worker. He's not who you think he is. Why? He's a good man and he's a good teacher, but he's not royalty. But you know what? She's making a wedding dress. She's going to be clothed in white. He's given her the material. And he is telling her to prepare because he is going to return. She has a magnificent white dress now. And those servants of the dark Lord, they don't just despise the prince, they despise all that the prince stands for. While her commitment to the prince, her loyalty to him, and his teachings, that angers the people around her. Why, you are intolerant and narrow-minded, they say. You don't have to be faithful to just him. There are other loves you can pursue. But she says, no, my heart is captured by the prince and him only. And they mock her and said, this is not the age to believe in that kind of fidelity. Those principles of honor and marriage and goodness are old-fashioned and quaint. And while they call her intolerant, they're totally intolerant of her. And they begin to surround her little house. They begin to mock her. They begin to tell her, we'll destroy you. There'll be, even if he would return, there'll be no bride for him when he comes. But I want you to know, he will return for her. One day, they surround her house and they're mocking. And they say, bring her out. We're going to destroy her. We're going to stop this foolishness. There's no prince returning for her. And when it seems that all is lost with the jeers and the mockings of the crowd, a great trumpet sounds and mighty soldiers in glistening armor mounted on white horses appear. And they drive back the tormentors. And then she sees him in all of his majesty. He's not dressed as a pauper now. He's not mocked and ridiculed now. He's dazzling and magnificent. He didn't just send his armies and his emissaries for her. He has come for her himself to take her in his arms and to make her his queen forever. And they will live happily forever after. Amen. Stand with me.